Welcome to This Week in Morgan County. I'm your host, Russell Mokhiber. Our guest this week is Rebecca MacLeod. Rebecca lives right here in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, and she's a noted conservationist and civic activist. Rebecca, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
You sit on so many commissions and activist kind of groups. Let's start with the rail trail. What's the idea of the rail trail in Morgan County?
Well, for a long time, we've been looking for opportunities to connect Berkeley Springs to the C&O Canal, which is just across the river. And there are a lot of trails that exist in Morgan County. This is one connector trail that would take people from the community and offer a way into the county from Maryland and from some other opportunities, and join up with some of the larger national trails that we have going through the county, the Tuscarora Trail. So the idea is to construct this trail along public right-of-ways that we already have. For instance, the Public Service Sewer District has a right-of-way to the treatment plant. So we could put the trail on top of that, and then we could connect at some future time to the river and then to Maryland.
Okay,
so the rail trail has funding for the construction of this trail.
When you say the rail trail, is it an organization?
It's a group of citizens, volunteers, who are assisting the county commission with the implementation of a grant that was obtained a few years ago to construct the rail trail.
And how much of it has been completed?
There has been no construction to date, but there have been all the studies completed that were needed. The committee is working with CSX, the rail line, to complete the acquisition of land for the trailhead, and we have a preliminary design and route. So we're looking at some possibilities of how we can cross the creek, the stream, Warm Springs Run, in a couple of locations.
Okay.
So pretty far along.
It goes from Berkeley Springs to the river?
Not yet.
But that's the idea?
That will be in the future. But right now, the route goes from the train depot at the northern end of the town of Bath into past Jimstown Road, and then ends right now at Sand Mine Road, and will probably connect to the senior center.
How will it get past the mine?
We'll deal with that when it...
But what would be the idea?
Well, there is an existing rail line that has limited use to the sand mine. And the route that it takes can be accessed along the floodplain, perhaps, or if the rail line is ever decommissioned. We would look at that as a possible route. It's quite a scenic section of Warm Springs Run that few people ever really get to see, because it's controlled by an industrial complex, and unfortunately they need to manage who goes through that area.
Right. But I mean, there's talk also that landmine might be shutting down sometime in the future, and in which case...
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Speaking of bridges, how will it connect to the C&O Canal? Would people go over the bridge? Is there a sidewalk over
Right
the bridge?
now, yes, there's a small sidewalk, but that bridge is, has seen better days, so I expect it to be replaced at some time in the future. I can't say how long. It's owned by the state of Maryland, so at some point we would expect to see expansion of that bridge, but there is a small sidewalk that could be accessed.
And the idea is all those bikers and hikers up on the C&O Canal would be able to come down to Berkeley Springs, come down that 6 miles, either running or hiking or biking.
Right. It's obviously it's quite the recreational opportunity, and there are regional commissions now. There's a study going on now about excuse me, bikers and bicyclists and expanding trails in this area, and Morgan County is part of that. There'll be a survey coming out where people can talk about bicycle use and trail opportunities. That survey will hit the streets January the 4th. There'll be publicity in the paper about it, so we're encouraging people to sign on to that. It's kind of a fun little survey. It's got maps and opportunities for selecting new routes.
Now there is, the commission, is the Morgan County Commission supportive of the rail trail?
Oh, yes.
Because I've heard Bob Ford, one of the county commissioners, say not good things about the rail.
Mr. Ford had questions about the grant because it wasn't being, pursued, or there were some concerns with how slow it was going with the Department of Transportation, which oversees the grant. So a group of local volunteers got involved, headed by Sally Marshall and Larry Lauer, and things are back on track.
Speaking of Larry Lauer, there's something called Streetscape. What is that?
Streetscapes is an official Town of Bath committee that helps oversee the construction of the street improvements, new sidewalks, lighting. We're working with the Department of Highways on resurfacing Fairfax Street, stormwater management along the street to help control some of the excessive flooding and water quality that comes from the urban area.
Is it like a beautification project to make Town of Bath look beautiful?
Essentially, but it deals more with just concepts and policies. It deals with actually administering the grants that are required to actually invest in that infrastructure. So it gets pretty complex at times.
But when you're driving down 522 through the Town of Bath and you see those Christmas lanterns hanging.
Yeah, no, that's not Streetscape.
What is that? Who is that?
That's the Town of Bath.
Town of Bath doing
Yeah,
that, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, those are sort of cool.
Yeah, they're great. The town looks really nice
It does,
during
yeah.
the holidays, and we're really trying to. The point of the streetscapes is economic growth and improvement of infrastructure, so that we have a community that people will want to shop in, live in, make people feel positive about what's going on, and that it helps reveal how people really are committed to the town and what they want the town to be. But it's really the nuts and bolts. It's not necessarily just beautification. It's developing the framework and making the town a place that people want to live and grow their businesses.
You love West Virginia.
I do.
You're from here, right?
I am a native. I was raised in Preston County and left for a while, like most young people do, but decided to come back and raise my family here.
What made you come here? I mean, what brought you here?
Well, actually, my job transferred me here, and I met my husband here, and we love the area so much and the people here that we decided to come back.
And you're very involved in the community, not just Streetscape and Rail Trail, but also you sit on the Bath Planning Commission. What is that?
The Town of Bath has a planning commission that was established to help provide policy and guidance to the town council on land use planning issues. We're in the process of writing the comprehensive plan for the community, and hopefully we'll be able to provide some input to the county comprehensive plan when it's revised.
What's the idea of the comprehensive? I mean, like...
A comprehensive plan is required by West Virginia code. It establishes the framework for a community's ordinances and decisions. So it's a document that has a lot of information about the demographics and the economics of the town, and then makes recommendations based on the input from the community about how we see our future.
And how do you see the future of the Town of Bath? I mean, we were talking with Oscar Robles a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that since Cool Font closed down, that was a big hit on the community. The fire, there've been a couple hits, but he thought that the economy was sort of starting to come back a little bit. How does the comprehensive plan look at economic development?
Definitely, and we all realize that that's the driver here. We have a lot of challenges. We've had some challenging times, but we have really committed people in this community. It's one of the reasons that I think Berkeley Springs is one of the best places in the state or even in the country. I've lived in a lot of places, and the people are committed here to trying to improve the community. And we have a lot of dedicated people who are willing to provide time. Lots of people on these committees, and Oscar is definitely one of them that see that we need to pull together to face those challenges. And we do have a lot of opportunity. We're in an exciting location in terms of growth potential because we're near Washington metropolitan area, and we have a number of community colleges in the area where our students can can go to, but we need jobs. So this is part of looking at things in the comprehensive plan.
What about there seems to be a little bit the fault lines on this debate seem to be tourism versus like big box stores. That seems to be one fault line. But for the town of Bath, how do you envision economic development happening? What kind of businesses?
Well, we are a town that was built around tourism, but relying only on tourism and not diversifying is foolish, because the tourism economy takes quite a hit whenever there's an economic downturn in the entire country. And the jobs that are offered tend to be, in one pattern or type of job, whereas we have people that want to be employed in other types of jobs and industry. So we need to make sure that we have a diversified economy, at the same time supporting that tourism economy, which is really strong, obviously. So we want to do everything we can to encourage it by making the town unique, not the same as other communities, make it a place that people want to come, and a location where people can develop new ideas for businesses, not just the same old economic drivers in the country, in the rest of the country. The one thing that we hear most about the town is that it's a little quirky and it's unique. So those are the kind of things that we want to encourage here. Quirky in a good way. It is a destination.
And I'm also interested in this split between people who run for public office and people who volunteer in these civic groups. So for example, the Bath Planning Commission, how many members are there?
There are 5 members.
And do you know who are they?
Scott Murkey, Susan Webster, Jeff Thatcher, Larry Lauer, and myself.
Okay. And those are volunteer people who volunteer. How often do you meet?
We try to meet a couple of times a month while we're working on the comprehensive plan, but because we are volunteers, we have to adjust our schedules a good bit. But we envision meeting at least once a month after the new year.
And how do the relations between the town of Bath and Morgan County, how does that work?
The metropolitan government, the municipal government, is set up with powers and abilities that are defined by West Virginia Code, the same as the county commission. And they work closely together on certain issues, on other issues. It's like
so do you have the county commissioners come into some of your meetings, or do you inform the county commission about what you're doing?
I'm not on the town council, I'm on the planning commission,
right.
So we report to the town council.
To the town council, okay. Now the other organization you're involved with is it called the Warm Spring?
I should say, though, that we do have an advisor from the Morgan County Planning Commission that sits on our county commission, and that's Jack Sornan.
Jack Sornan sits.
And Eric LaRue.
Okay. And then the other organization you're involved with is the Warm Spring Watershed Association?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that?
The Warm Springs Watershed Association is a volunteer organization that has members. It's a nonprofit that's been recognized by the state of West Virginia. It's received a number of awards from the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection for its work. It's a group of people that care about Warm Springs Run and our water quality in the region. So we've been working on developing projects and plans for addressing some of the water quality issues in the run, as well as the land use that affects the stream.
All right, where is Warm Spring Run? Where does it go from where to where?
Warm Springs Run follows US Route 522 for the length of that corridor. It's from Warm Springs Ridge. It goes flows north into the Potomac. It's about 11 miles long, and it runs right through the town of Bath and most of the developed area here around Berkeley Springs.
Where does it start?
It starts near the Potomac Edison maintenance building at the top of the watershed near Shirley Farms.
And what are the threats to Warm Springs? Right?
Well, it's an urban watershed, so we have a lot of runoff that comes from the streets and anything anybody might put down a drain or other, potential sources of contamination that you typically see. So it's been a stream that people haven't paid much attention to, even though we think that it's a great feature for the community, and it will be one of those places that people will like to sit down on a park bench nearby once we find some of those amenities. It flows right through the state park, Berkeley Springs State Park. It's not the springs, although the springs contribute water to the run, but it's.
So when you go and put your feet in the springs, is that Warm Springs Run? No.
That's the springs
that
flow and contribute water into the run.
When you're watching those concerts in the park and there's that flow of water in front of the band, is
the
that
water behind you would be the run. And the water from the springs that's in front of the band flows into the run right underneath that bridge.
And those are the springs.
The springs come out of the mountain and go into the run.
Right, but I'm trying to understand that water in front of the band.
Yeah.
Between you and the band.
That's the springs.
That's the springs. That's just coming out of the ground.
Yeah, about 18 gallons per second. 1,800 gallons per second.
1,800 gallons per second coming
Yes.
out of the ground.
And then some of that water goes to provide water for the community, public water system.
What do you do to protect the springs? I mean, what can be done to protect the springs? Like, for example, if there's what about the trucks coming through town? I mean, people are, I know you think
That's air pollution. And
no, let's say
actually
there's a
air
spill.
pollution
Let's say there's a spill.
Well, there's spills and there's air pollutants that contribute to contamination in the run. Those things, when something like that happens, our president, Kate Lehman, is usually alerted. She was first on the scene when we had, well, she wasn't first on the scene, but she was on the scene when we had the spill recently with fuel oil. She helps monitor it, and then the Watershed Association volunteers who do monitoring, Norman Dean heads that committee up, will go in and over a period of years, they'll monitor the situation upstream and downstream from that spill to see how it affects the stream. We do a lot of tree plantings. We've done some infrastructure improvements for the roadways around the cemetery that's just south of town. We do other projects, educational work with student groups and scouts. So I think there's a wetland that's near Widmeyer that has trails through it to help educate the public about why wetlands are good and why we need to protect them.
As an avid reader of the Morgan Messenger, I periodically come across these pictures, and you often are in them, like with a hat on, and like you're picking up trash or you're doing stuff with Sleepy Creek. So you're always active. I mean, how do you find time to do all this? Okay, well, are you involved with Sleepy Creek also? I mean, are you for
Maybe I'm a type A, I don't know.
Because I'm wondering about civic action. I mean, when you see the people on these commissions and on these trails, they tend to be the same people. So would you say that the number of people like yourself, well, give a sense of civic action in Morgan County? How many people?
I think more people would volunteer if they knew how, or that they could make a difference, that there's opportunities for them to get involved and make a difference for the community, to put their stamp on it and to help guide. And I think you see that volunteerism whenever the county calls on the group. Whenever the county updates its comprehensive plan, they'll get a group of people together that will help advise them. And you have lots of commissions and other boards. So there's a lot of opportunity out there to volunteer. We may not know everybody that's volunteering, but there's so many committees that, and if people are interested in that, on the town website, it lists the committees. They just need to let somebody on that committee know. On the county commission's website, there are all the boards and opportunities, and it tells people how to volunteer for those. But even if they aren't able to make that kind of commitment, they can certainly support those kind of events by making sure they can bring their children to tree plantings, or even just showing up and helping spread mulch around trees. That's, things like that are really important.
You live in town.
Yes.
What's your take on the truck traffic? That's been an issue that comes and goes a lot, both for the environment and for noise and all that. What do you think should be done?
They're noisy, and I don't know what can be done. I know that there are probably ways of helping alleviate some of that truck traffic. We do need to have a better handle on hazardous waste that comes through the community because of the problems if there is an accident, not only for the run, but for the town itself and the water supply. So that's an important thing that we need to do with truck traffic.
There are some communities that say no to trucks. Now, they tend to be wealthier.
They also tend to be in another state, and there are certain rules that the West Virginia legislature conveys on communities and counties, and if we want to change that, we need to work through the legal process.
Well, I heard this, do you know where Nemacolin is?
Yes.
It's like on a back road between here and Pittsburgh. And I heard this from a guy who stopped me. He lives here in Morgan County, and he knows about that area. And he says that they're very strict about truck traffic and about development.
It's Pennsylvania.
And, well, what's the difference?
It's a different state, different rules, different laws.
Well, don't you think that we eventually could become that way, where we're more proactive about how our town is developed?
Sure, that's a hypothetical. I don't really get into hypotheticals.
All right. So, just finally, you like it the way it is here?
I think there's always room for improvement in just about everything that exists out there, and that's kind of what I look for.
Well,
where can we make an improvement? Where can we make things better?
Right, and that's what you and these other volunteers have been spending time doing.
I hope that's what most of humanity does.
Right. Now, if people wanted to get involved, like for example in Warm Spring Watershed or the rail trail or anything like that, how do they do that?
The Warm Springs Watershed is always looking for new members.
Okay.
So I would suggest that they visit our website, Warm Springs Watershed Association. If you Google it, it'll come up. And you can pay online $10 to become a member, or you can just attend the events if you're not able to actually become a member. We're open. We have an annual meeting coming up in April. Everyone's welcome. We'll have a great speaker there talking about, I think, pollinators and plants in the area.
When is that?
In April.
And where does
It'll be in the paper.
And where does that take place?
It'll probably be at the Board of Education building. That's where we usually do it, but I don't think we have those details firmed up yet.
Okay. By the way, one last thing. Why did you choose to get involved with defending or protecting the Warm Spring Watershed as opposed to like the Sleepy Creek Watershed or the...
Well, I'm a member of Sleepy Creek too, and I support all the watersheds in the area, but I live in Warm Springs Watershed, and it's it's near and dear to my heart.
Well, thank you, Rebecca MacLeod, for joining us, and I hope as a result of your work, more people become interested.
Thank you, Russell.
You're welcome, and thank you for watching This Week in Morgan County.